What school never taught you about money? The 7 wealth principles, explained slowly, fully, and in plain language. Full audiobook script. Before we begin, this is educational and motivational. It is not financial advice. Every number you hear is an illustration to help you understand a concept, not a promise of returns. Your situation is yours. Think for yourself. Verify everything. Move responsibly. Now let's begin. Opening. 12 years. 0 money lessons. Think back. You sat in classrooms for roughly 12 years, maybe more. Think about how many hours that actually is. 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, roughly 40 weeks a year. Multiply that out, and you're looking at somewhere around 14,000 hours of your life spent inside rooms designed to shape how you think. 14,000 hours. In those hours you learned a lot. You learned the dates of wars. You learned how to find the area of a triangle. You learned the difference between a metaphor and a simile. You learned the parts of a cell. You learned how to write a 5-paragraph essay with an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. You also learned some things that weren't on any syllabus. You learned to raise your hand before speaking. You learned to sit still for long stretches, even when your body wanted to move. You learned to ask permission to use the bathroom. You learned to produce work on someone else's deadline. You learned that approval comes from above, and you learned to want it. Now let me ask you something. In 14,000 hours, how many were spent teaching you how money actually works? Not money is important. Not save your pennies. Not a one-off assembly about budgeting. I mean the real machinery. What an asset is, and how it differs from something that just looks expensive. How interest works, both when it's paying you and when it's eating you. What inflation is, and why the money in your pocket buys less every single year. What cash flow means, and why it matters more than a big salary. How compounding turns small, consistent amounts into large amounts over time. What ownership means, and why the people who own things live differently than the people who work for them. How debt terms are structured, and what a monthly payment actually costs you over a lifetime. How taxes work, and why 2 people earning the same amount can end up in completely different positions. For most people, the honest answer is 0 hours. Not 1. This was not an oversight. Now I want you to sit with something uncomfortable. The people who design education systems are not stupid. They are not confused about money. They understand money extremely well. They understand power. They understand dependence. They understand something very simple about how societies function. A person who only knows how to earn will spend their entire life working for people who know how to own. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's a description of an incentive. A system that needs reliable workers has no urgent reason to produce financially independent owners. Those are 2 different products. One shows up on time, does the task, accepts the wage, and stays. The other asks questions, negotiates, leaves, builds something competing. Which one is easier to organize? You were trained to chase income. You were never trained to build wealth. Those are not the same thing, and the difference will decide the shape of your entire life. This audiobook is the lesson you never got. 7 principles, explained slowly, in plain language, with examples. By the end, you will not be able to unsee it. Do this before you continue. Go to the comment section. Type these 3 words. Nobody taught me. Not to complain. To acknowledge. Because you cannot repair a gap you refuse to admit exists. And I want you to see how many thousands of other people are typing the exact same thing. You were never the problem. The curriculum was Chapter 1. The first theft, what was actually taken from you. Let me be precise about what was taken, because most people get this wrong. The first thing taken from you was not money. You didn't have money as a child. Nobody robbed your piggy bank. What was taken was direction. Attention, the chance to ask the right question before your life hardened around the wrong answer. How the frame gets installed. Think about the structure of your early years. Show up on time. Every morning, a bell. Your day starts when someone else says it starts. Follow instructions. The assignment is defined for you. The format is defined for you. The deadline is defined for you. Wait for evaluation. You do the work. Someone else grades it. Their number becomes your identity for the term. Ask permission. For water. For the bathroom. To speak. To move. Compete for a scarce reward.
Grades on a curve.
Class rankings. Limited spots in the top group. Limited seats at the good university. None of this is evil. Some of it is genuinely necessary to run a room with 30 children in it. But understand what it builds. 12 years of that installs a very specific default setting in a human mind. My job is to perform well inside a structure that someone else designed and wait for that structure to reward me. And by the time money enters your life, that setting is already locked in. You were fully prepared to work for money. You were never prepared to study money. That is the theft. Nobody had to lie to you. Here's the part that makes it so hard to see. No teacher lied to you. No textbook contained false information about money. They simply left things out. Omission is quieter than deception. It leaves no fingerprints. Nobody feels guilty. Nobody gets sued. Nothing looks broken. But consider what omission produces. A child learns to solve for X, but never learns that a 22% interest rate on a credit card means the balance can double in a little over 3 years if you never pay it down. A child learns the causes of World War II, but never learns that the money in their future wallet loses purchasing power every single year, and that saving in cash alone is a slow-motion loss. A child learns to analyze poetry, but never learns to read a loan agreement, a lease, an employment contract, or a terms of service page. A child learns photosynthesis, but never learns the human science of status, envy, impulse, and social pressure, which empties more bank accounts than any bill ever will. That child doesn't graduate educated about the world they're about to enter. That child graduates useful. And here is the distinction I need you to carry for the rest of your life. Useful is not the same as free. Busy is not the same as secure. Employed is not the same as safe. Why it looks completely normal. Now here's why almost nobody notices the setup. Everyone around you is running the same script. Finish school, find a job, earn more, spend more, borrow when necessary, repeat until retirement. When every single person you know is doing the same thing, it stops looking like a script. It starts looking like reality itself. And because it looks like reality, the pain gets blamed on you personally. Watch how this works. The paycheck disappears too fast. You conclude, I have no self-control. Savings refuse to grow. You conclude, I'm just bad with money. Retirement looks thin and far away. You conclude, I started too late. I'm behind. You almost never conclude, I was never given the operating manual and I'm making predictable errors that anybody would make without one. That is how effective control works. When it's done well, it doesn't shout. It doesn't restrain you. It just quietly removes information and lets you blame yourself for the result. Look at the adults who raised you. I want you to do something honest. Think about the working adults you observed growing up. Parents, uncles, neighbors, teachers, the people at your church or mosque or community center. Many of them worked genuinely hard. Many were decent moral people. Many sacrificed for their families. Many were exhausted by 50. And money still felt fragile, not because they lacked effort. The effort was there, not because they lacked character. The character was there because effort without financial understanding is a treadmill with moral language wrapped around it. You feel noble while standing perfectly still. You work hard, so you assume you're progressing. But hard work is an input, not an outcome. A hamster runs hard too. Direction determines whether effort accumulates or evaporates. The good news, it's not complicated. Now here is something that should give you enormous relief. Wealth is not hidden behind complicated mathematics. You do not need advanced calculus. You do not need a finance degree. You do not need insider access. Wealth is hidden behind things nobody bothered to say out loud. The core ideas are simple enough to teach a 15-year-old in about 2 hours. 1. Own things that pay you. 2. Avoid debt that drains you. 3. Save before you spend, not after. 4. Let time do most of the heavy lifting. 5. Protect yourself from disaster. 6. Stay quiet and repeat for a very long time. Read that list again. Is any single item on that list too advanced for a classroom? No. It's not too complicated. It's too disruptive. A population that understands those 6 lines behaves differently. It borrows less. It consumes less impulsively. It negotiates harder. It quits jobs it hates. It builds competing businesses, which is exactly why it isn't taught. When you first see this, anger shows up. And that's fine. Let it come. Anger can be clean when it wakes you up. But here's the trap. Anger becomes useless the moment it turns into performance instead of action. Complaining about the system will not fund your retirement. Posting about it will not build your asset base. Being right about the injustice will not pay your rent in 30 years. Rage at the system won't repair your future. Clarity might. Calm action will. You don't need to become bitter. You need to become exact. What money actually is? Before we go further, I want to give you the cleanest definition of money you will ever hear. Write it down. Money is stored choice. That's it. That's the whole thing. Let me unpack it, because this single reframe changes behavior. Money is time in another form. Every dollar you have is a piece of somebody's labor, effort, or value creation, including your own, frozen and made portable. Money is pressure removed before it arrives. A person with 6 months of expenses saved does not experience a car repair the same way a person with nothing saved experiences it. Same repair, completely different nervous system. Money is the ability to say no without panicking. No to the job that's destroying you. No to the client who disrespects you. No to the relationship that's draining you. No to the deal that doesn't feel right. Money is space around your mind. When survival is not in question, your brain can think in years instead of days. That single change makes better decisions almost automatic. What happens when nobody teaches you this? People who never learn what money is stay emotional around every single financial decision. Watch the cycle. They earn, then react. The money arrives and immediately triggers a response. Relief, excitement, a feeling of finally. They spend, then regret. The purchase provides a hit. The hit fades in days. The cost stays for months. They borrow, then rationalize. Everyone has a car payment. It's an investment in myself. I'll pay it off early. They compare, then consume. Someone posts a vacation. Something tightens in the chest. A booking gets made. And here's the illusion that keeps it running. It looks like freedom, because buying feels like choosing. But a purchase made from pressure is not power. It's relief you rented for an afternoon, and you pay for the rental for months. Let that settle. A life can look completely respectable and still be financially cornered. A paycheck can be large and still be weak. A person can be highly educated and completely naive about the machinery of money. The replacement lesson. There's one more layer to the theft that almost nobody names. They didn't just leave out the money lesson. They installed a replacement. You were taught, implicitly, constantly, that security comes from being selected. A good school selects you. A good company hires you. A lender approves you. A manager promotes you. A landlord accepts your application. Notice the direction. Your eyes are trained to look upward, toward gatekeepers, approvers, and decision-makers. Meanwhile, wealth is quietly built sideways. Through ownership, through systems. Through decisions made in private with no applause and no approval process. That's why so many genuinely smart people remain financially exposed. They keep collecting credentials while neglecting the machinery of accumulation. They polish the tool and completely ignore the engine. Comment checkpoint number 1. Answer honestly. There is no shame here, there's only clarity. What is the one money lesson you wish someone had explained to you at 18? Type, I wish someone had told me. Read the replies too. You are about to discover that thousands of people were failed by the exact same silence. Chapter 2. The salary cage. Why a bigger paycheck doesn't set you free. Once you see the first frame crack, something painful comes into focus. Most people do not have a money problem. They have a role problem. They see themselves as earners and never once as builders. How the role gets assigned. From your earliest years, everything pointed toward income as the finish line. Get good grades so you can get into a good school. Get into a good school so you can get a good job. Get a good job so you can get a good salary. Get a good salary so you can get a better salary. Notice something. The chain never ends at ownership. It just loops back to a bigger version of the same thing. And the entire culture applauds this loop because income is visible. Income sounds responsible at family dinners. Income impresses at job interviews. Income is easy to state in one number. But income alone does not create wealth. Income only creates possibility. What you do with money after it arrives determines nearly everything. Two people can earn identical salaries for 20 years and end up in completely different universes. The difference isn't the income. It's what happened in the hours after payday. How a good salary becomes a beautiful cage. Here's the mechanism, step by step. Step 1, you get a raise. Genuine achievement. You earned it. Step 2, you feel you deserve to enjoy it. Also reasonable. Step 3, you upgrade one thing. Maybe the apartment, maybe the car. Step 4, that upgrade comes with attachments. A bigger apartment has bigger utilities, more furniture to fill, higher insurance. A better car has a higher payment, higher insurance, more expensive maintenance, premium fuel. Step 5, your social environment shifts. New neighborhood, new colleagues, new expectations. Dinners cost more. Gifts cost more. Vacations cost more. Step 6, 6 months later, the raise is fully absorbed. You are earning significantly more and saving exactly the same amount as before, possibly less. Step 7, but now your fixed costs are higher, which means you need the job more than you did before the raise. Read that last line again. The raise didn't loosen the cage. It made the cage more expensive to leave. Outwardly, life expanded. Inwardly, dependence deepened. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the single most common reason high earners feel broke. More income without a system just creates a more expensive version of the same loop. Why the education system prepared you for exactly this. Salaries are administratively convenient. Consider it from the system's perspective. A job gives structure. Your time is accounted for. A paycheck arrives on schedule. Predictable behavior. Taxes are withheld automatically before you ever touch the money. You never have to develop the discipline to set it aside, and you never fully feel what you're paying. Performance is reviewed by someone else. Your self-assessment isn't required. Everything about it is legible, measurable, and manageable. Now compare that to wealth building. It requires delayed gratification, spending less than you could for years. It requires private study. Nobody assigns you the reading. It requires tolerance for uncertainty. No guaranteed outcome, no schedule. It requires looking unimpressive while the foundation is laid. That last one is why most people never do it. You can build an incredible financial foundation for 3 years and have absolutely nothing to show anyone. No new car, no vacation photos, no visible proof. Meanwhile, someone with half your net worth and twice your debt looks far more successful than you. Most people cannot survive that. The month that repeats forever. Let me walk you through the standard month because I want you to see it clearly. Payday arrives. For about 6 hours you feel wealthy. Rent or mortgage takes the largest bite. Often 30–40% immediately gone. Taxes already took theirs before you even saw the number. Utilities, phone, internet, insurance, the quiet recurring costs that nobody notices because they're on auto pay. Debt payments. Car, card. Student loan. Each one is a piece of your past reaching forward to take a piece of your present. Food and transport. Necessary.
Fine.
Subscriptions. 5 streaming services. 2 apps. A gym you visit twice a month. Individually small. Collectively significant. Social life. Birthdays. Dinners. Contributions. Gifts. The cost of remaining connected to other humans. Treating yourself. Because it was a hard month and you deserve something. End of month, enormous motion. Nothing accumulated. People call this survival. And never ask why survival feels so crowded even when income increases. Here's why. Money with no assignment obeys your mood. Money guided by mood almost never survives. The question that divides 2 lives. Stop asking only, how much did I earn this month? Start asking 3 questions instead. 1. What did I keep? 2. What do I own? 3. What will still pay me when I stop working? Those 3 questions separate 2 completely different types of people. The salary thinker treats money like water running through open hands. It arrives, it passes through, it's gone. The only strategy is to increase the flow rate. The wealth builder treats every single dollar like a worker to be given an assignment. Let me show you what that actually looks like. Some dollars are defenders. They sit in an emergency fund and protect you from disaster. Some dollars are farmers. They go into investments and produce more dollars over time. Some dollars are teachers. They buy skills that raise your earning power permanently. Some dollars are scouts. They stay liquid, waiting for opportunity. Some dollars are soldiers. They buy ownership in things that grow. And some dollars are for living, because a life with no joy in it isn't a strategy, it's a punishment. That's allowed. It just needs to be a decision, not a default. That's management. That's command. That's what adulthood with money actually looks like. Why the salary cage also damages your identity. There's a psychological cost nobody warns you about. If 100% of your financial value comes from earned income, then every threat to your job becomes a threat to your existence. Watch what that produces. A bad performance review shakes your sense of self. A difficult manager can shrink your voice in meetings. You accept treatment you'd never tolerate elsewhere. You stay silent when you should speak. A layoff doesn't just cost you money. It destroys your self-image. That's far too much power to hand to a single source. Income should support your life. It should never define your worth. And the practical version of this is important. The person with 6 months of expenses saved negotiates differently than the person with 0. Not because they're braver, because they can afford to be. Comment checkpoint number 2, run the number. Don't estimate, actually calculate this. Add up 1 month of your essential expenses. Rent, food, transport, utilities, minimum debt payments. Now divide your savings by that number. That's how many months of freedom you currently own. Comment, my freedom number is 2 months. 0 is an acceptable answer. Most people start there, but almost nobody knows their number, and that ignorance is exactly what keeps them trapped. Chapter 3. Principle 1. Buy assets before applause. Now we begin the actual principles. And we start with the single most important word in personal finance, asset. This word gets used so casually that most people never stop to define it properly. So let's define it precisely. The definition. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket, grows in value over time, or both. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's the entire framework. It's genuinely that simple. Notice what the definition does not say. It does not say an asset is expensive. It does not say an asset is impressive. It does not say an asset makes you feel successful. If it doesn't pay you and it doesn't grow, it is not helping you build wealth, no matter how good it looks. Concrete examples, so there's no confusion. Things that are usually assets. Shares in profitable companies. You own a small slice of a business. If the business earns money, some may come to you as dividends. If the business grows, your slice becomes more valuable. An index fund, a basket holding small pieces of hundreds of companies at once. You're not betting on one horse, you're buying a piece of the whole race. A rental property that cash flows. Note the qualifier, not just a property where the rent covers the mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancy allowance, and still leaves money over. A business that generates profit after you've paid yourself and everyone else. A digital product, a course, a book, a template, a piece of software built once, sold many times. A genuine skill that meaningfully raises what you can charge. This is an asset stored inside you, and it's often the highest return one available to a beginner. Things that are usually liabilities. A car you financed. It costs you a monthly payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and it loses value every year. It may be necessary. It is not an asset. Credit card balances. This one is worse than neutral. It's an asset working for someone else, against you. The bank owns a stream of income and you're the source. Most consumer electronics. They lose value the moment you open the box. Subscriptions. Small, recurring, invisible. 10 at 12 month is $1,440 a year. Clothes and items bought primarily to signal status. These are the purest liabilities because they cost money, and they cost you the compounding that money would have produced. What about a house you live in? This is where people argue, so let's be honest. A home you live in is a mixed instrument. It may grow in value. It may build equity as you pay down the loan. It may protect you from rent increases. Those are real benefits. But it also takes money out of your pocket every single month. Mortgage interest, property tax, insurance, repairs, maintenance. Here's the honest test. Does it produce income while you own it? If no, it's a place to live with an investment component attached. That's not bad. It's just not the same thing as an income-producing asset. And treating it like one is why many people reach 50 with a nice house and no cash flow. Why this is hard, and it's not the math. The concept takes 90 seconds to understand. The difficulty is entirely emotional. Remember chapter 1. From childhood, you were conditioned to chase visible rewards. Gold stars, grades, trophies, certificates, public recognition. That wiring doesn't switch off when you become an adult. It just changes targets. So the pattern repeats with money. A nicer car before an investment account. A bigger apartment before an emergency fund. Better clothes before a better balance sheet. A vacation before the debt with 20% interest is cleared. In every case, the appearance of progress becomes more important than the reality of ownership. And you can't blame people for it. Nobody claps for your index fund contribution. Everybody notices your new car. The two sentences that change how you see people. You can look rich and be structurally weak. You can look completely ordinary and be genuinely dangerous. Once you understand this, you start reading the world differently. The person with the impressive car might have a $700 monthly payment, $200 insurance, and $400 in credit card minimums, meaning they need roughly $2,300 a month before they've eaten anything, and they cannot survive one lost paycheck. The person driving a 9-year-old car might have 12 months of expenses in reserve and a growing portfolio, and could walk out of their job on a Tuesday without any drama. One of them looks successful. One of them is free. They are almost never the same person. The reframe that makes this easier. Here's a way to think about assets that makes the discipline feel less like deprivation. Every asset you buy is a piece of future pressure removed. Don't think of it as money I'm not spending. Think of it as, this is a small amount of my future stress cancelled in advance. Every dollar you put into something productive means less life you will have to sell later. That's not deprivation. That's buying back pieces of your own future. These aren't trophies. They're engines. The audience test. Here is a filter you can apply to almost any purchase in 3 seconds. The more a purchase needs an audience, the less likely it is to be an asset. Ask yourself honestly, if literally nobody would ever know I bought this, would I still want it? If the honest answer is no, you're not buying a thing. You're buying a reaction from other people. And reactions are the most expensive product in the world because they last about 4 days and cost you for years. Real strength rarely begs to be seen. The new first thought. Here is the single behavioral change from this chapter. When money arrives, your first thought can no longer be, what can I buy? It has to become, what can I own? 4 words. It sounds tiny. It isn't tiny. It redirects every dollar that will ever pass through your hands for the rest of your life. Comment checkpoint chapter 3. Be specific. Vague plans die. Name one asset you will acquire in the next 90 days and the date. Type, my first asset. Buy, an index fund by 0201. $300 into dividend shares by 0120. A digital template store launched by 0315. A certification that raises my rate by 0401. Put a date on it. A goal without a date is a daydream in a business suit. Chapter 4. Principle 2. Build things that actually pay you cash flow. Owning assets is the foundation, But there's a second layer that most people skip, and skipping it keeps them stressed even as their net worth grows. There's a difference between money on paper and money in motion. The trap of paper wealth. Paper value is seductive. It can make you feel secure before you are secure. Your investment account balance rises. Your property's estimated value increases. Your business valuation goes up. All of that can be real and meaningful. But here's the problem. If your day-to-day life is still funded 100% by your labor, then none of that paper growth reduces your exposure today. You can be worth a significant amount on paper and still panic when the car breaks. You need money that actually arrives. That's called cash flow. The definition. Cash flow is money that comes to you on a recurring basis without you trading hours for it. Notice the two parts, recurring and not tied to your hours. Comes from. You own shares in companies. Those companies distribute part of their profit to shareholders, typically quarterly. You did nothing that quarter. The money still arrives. Rent. You own property. Someone pays you monthly to use it. After expenses, what remains is cash flow. Business profit. You own a business with systems and people. It generates profit whether or not you personally performed every task this week. Royalties. You wrote a book, recorded music, licensed a photograph, patented a design. It sells. You get paid. Interest. You lent money to a bank, to a bond issuer, and they pay you for the use of it. Digital product revenue. You built a course, an app, a template, a tool. It sells while you sleep. The vehicle matters far less than the principle behind it. You are training money to go out and come back with more than it left with. That is a fundamentally different relationship than spend and hope the next paycheck rescues me. Why cash flow changes your psychology? This is the part people underestimate. A person living purely on earned income feels every disruption sharply. A slow month at work is a crisis. A difficult boss is a threat. A rumor about layoffs ruins your sleep. A surprise expense creates genuine fear. A person with even modest cash flow feels marginally less exposed every single month. And it's not primarily about the amount of money. It's about what the money says. My survival is no longer tied to one single source. My future doesn't depend entirely on my next act of labor. The system I'm building has begun to work. Here's something important about freedom that nobody tells you. Freedom rarely arrives as one dramatic event. Freedom arrives as fewer moments of panic. You don't wake up free one Tuesday. You just notice gradually that things that used to terrify you no longer do. That's the whole thing. The mistake. Asset rich and cash poor. Here's a genuine trap that catches people who are otherwise doing well. They chase net worth as the only scoreboard. They accumulate things that grow but don't produce. They end up owning quite a lot and still feeling squeezed every month. Every spare dollar is locked in something illiquid. An emergency means selling something at a bad time or borrowing against it. That's not control. Control requires breathing room, and cash flow is breathing room repeated. The honest warning. You've heard passive income used as a marketing slogan by people selling courses about passive income. Fair enough. A lot of that is noise. But don't reject a real principle because shallow people abuse it. Truth survives bad messengers. Real cash flow exists. It's usually slower, smaller, and far more boring than the advertisements. It is also completely real. And here's the honest version. Most cash flow is not fully passive. Rental property needs management. A business needs oversight. A digital product needs updates and marketing. The goal isn't zero work forever. The goal is income that isn't destroyed the day you stop showing up. That's a realistic target. And it's enough to change your entire life. Chapter 5. Principle 3. Let time do the heavy lifting. Compounding. Now we come to the single most powerful force in personal finance and one of the least understood. Compounding. The definition in plain language. Compounding is when your money earns money, and then that money starts earning money too. Most people understand the first part. Almost nobody internalizes the second. Picture a snowball at the top of a hill. At first it's small and unimpressive. You push it and it barely moves. It picks up a thin layer of snow. But here's the thing, a bigger ball has a bigger surface area, so it picks up more snow per rotation. Which makes it bigger, which makes it pick up even more. By the bottom of the hill, it's enormous, and you barely pushed it at all. That's compounding. Boring at the start, overwhelming at the end. The math, slowly. Let's use a simple illustration. These are round numbers for teaching, not predictions. You invest $1,000 and it grows 10% in a year. Year 1, 1,100. You earned 100. Now here's the key. In year 2, you don't earn 10% on your original $1,000. You earn 10% on 100. Year 2, 100, 1 to 10. You earned 110. Year 3, 1,210, 13, turn 30 walls. You earned $121. Year 4, 1,331, 1 to 464. You earned 133. Notice something. You haven't added a single new dollar. And your annual earnings keep increasing. $100, 110, 121, 133s. Keep going. Year 10, roughly 2,594. It has more than doubled. Year 20, roughly 6,127. Year 30, roughly $17,049 from $1,000. Touched once, then left completely alone. Now add consistency. That was one deposit. Now imagine you also add $200 every month, about $650 a day. Over 30 years at that same illustrative rate, the contributions alone would total $72,000. But the compounding does something the contributions can't. The account could plausibly grow to several $100,000, the majority of which was never contributed by you. It was generated by earlier money doing work. Read that again. Eventually, most of your wealth is produced by money you already saved, not money you're currently earning. That is the moment you stop being the machine. The part that should disturb you. Time matters more than amount. Here's a comparison that has changed more lives than any other in finance. Person A invests $200 a month from age 25 to 35, 10 years, then stops completely. Never adds another dollar. Total contributed $24,000. Person B invests $200 a month from age 35 to 65, 30 years, never misses. Total contributed $72,000. Person B contributed 3 times as much money, and in many illustrative scenarios, person A ends up with more at 65. Why? Because person A's money had 40 years to compound. Person B's had 30, and most of it far less than that. Time is not a minor factor in compounding. Time is the engine. Money is just the fuel, which means the most expensive thing you can do is wait. And nobody told you this at 18, precisely when the information was worth the most. Why most people never experience compounding. It isn't lack of access. Anyone with a phone can open an account. It's lack of patience. Here's the emotional reality of the first few years. Year 1, you contribute faithfully. The balance looks pathetic. Your friend just bought a car. You feel stupid. Year 2, slightly better. A market dip makes it briefly worse. You wonder if you're doing this wrong. Year 3, it's growing, but slowly. It doesn't feel like it's changing your life. Year 5, something starts to look real. Year 10, you look at the number and realize a large portion of it wasn't contributed by you. Year 20, it's genuinely significant. Compounding looks unimpressive at the start. That is the test. It asks one question. Can you stay disciplined while the results still look small? Most people cannot. They start and stop. They withdraw at the first temptation. They chase something more exciting. They pause contributions for a few months and never resume. Every interruption resets the most valuable variable, time. The dark side, compounding works against you too. This is the half nobody teaches, and it's costing people more than the positive half is earning them. Compounding is directionless. It just multiplies whatever it's pointed at. Credit card debt compounds. At around 22% APR, a $5,000 balance you only make minimum payments on can take well over a decade to clear. And you may pay more in interest than the original amount. You become somebody else's dividend. Lifestyle inflation compounds. Each upgrade becomes the new baseline. You can never go back down without it feeling like failure. Your required income ratchets permanently upward. Small leaks compound. $15 a day on things you don't remember is roughly $5,175 a year. Over 20 years invested instead, that becomes a genuinely life-changing figure. Fees compound. A fund charging 2% instead of 0.2% doesn't cost you 1.8%. Over decades, it can quietly consume a substantial share of your final balance. Delay compounds. Every year you wait doesn't cost you 1 year of growth. It costs you the most powerful year, the last one when the balance is largest. Time is always multiplying something. If you don't direct it, it still moves. It just moves against you. Comment checkpoint 4. Small is fine. Consistent is everything. What amount can you invest every single month without fail, even in a bad month? Type big every month starting. Choose an amount so small it feels almost embarrassing. The size doesn't matter. The unbroken streak does. Chapter 6. Principle 4. Use leverage carefully. Effort has a ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day. Your body has finite energy. There's only so much one person can personally produce. If wealth came from effort alone, exhausted people would all be rich. They're not. So effort clearly isn't the whole equation. The missing variable is leverage. The definition. Leverage is anything that multiplies the effect of your time, money, knowledge, or skill. It's how one person produces an outcome larger than their own 2 hands could create. The 5 main types. 1. Capital. Money is leverage. Money can work while you sleep. $10,000 invested produces returns, whether you're awake, sick, or on holiday. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't need motivation. 2. Technology. Code. Software serves 1 person or 1 million people at nearly the same cost to you. You build it once, it runs forever. This is the most extreme leverage available to an individual today. Trace media. Content. You record something once. It can be watched by 1 million people over 10 years. Your effort was fixed. The reach is unlimited. 4. People. Teams. Someone else executes so your hours multiply. But note, this is the most demanding form because people require leadership, judgment, and systems. Bad management makes teams a cost, not a leverage. 5. Ownership. You own a share of something that grows without your daily involvement. This is leverage on other people's labor, capital, and systems, legitimately and by agreement. The critical warning. Here is the sentence that determines whether leverage saves you or destroys you. Leverage does not create good outcomes. Leverage multiplies whatever is already true about you. Weak habits plus leverage, faster destruction. Strong habits plus leverage, faster freedom. If you're disorganized, hiring a team makes you disorganized at scale. If you're impulsive, access to credit makes you impulsive with interest attached. If your business has bad margins, growing it just loses money faster. Leverage is an amplifier. It has no opinion about what it's amplifying. Why most people meet leverage in its worst form first. This is important, and it explains a great deal. The average person's first encounter with leverage is debt, and specifically, consumer debt. A credit card at 18, a car loan at 22, buy now, pay later at the checkout, a personal loan for a wedding. Nobody teaches the productive version first. The consuming version is marketed directly to you. And here's the difference, stated as clearly as I can. Consuming leverage pulls tomorrow into today. It leaves tomorrow poorer. Productive leverage multiplies what you build. It leaves tomorrow stronger. A simple test. Does this borrowed money buy something that will produce income or increase in value? Or does it buy something that will be consumed and lose value? Borrowing for a depreciating item you don't need. Consuming leverage. Borrowing carefully against an asset that produces more than the cost of the debt. Productive leverage. The instrument is the same. The direction is opposite. The 2 ways people get this wrong. Mistake 1. Fear all leverage. They avoid every form of it, stay entirely on foot, and remain small forever. They mistake caution for wisdom. Mistake 2. Worship leverage. They borrow aggressively, expand recklessly, and get destroyed by the first bad season. Both mistakes come from the same root, shallow understanding. The mature position is neither fear nor worship. It's precision. Ask before using any leverage. If this goes badly, do I survive? Is the cost of this leverage lower than what it produces? Am I using this to build or to feel better right now? Chapter 7. Principle 5. Own a piece of what grows. Now we reach the principle that quietly separates the comfortable from the free. Equity. The definition. Equity means you own part of the thing that grows, not just a payment for maintaining it. Wages pay you for today's work. Equity pays you for all the tomorrows. The hard question. If you help build something valuable and own none of it, you're still in the cage. A better decorated one, but the same cage. I want you to really sit with this. Consider two people at the same company. Person A is an excellent employee. Works hard for 8 years. Gets steady raises. Well respected. Earns a good salary the entire time. Person B joined the same company, took a somewhat lower salary, but negotiated an ownership stake. 8 years later, the company grows substantially. Person A has 8 years of good salary, all of it already spent on 8 years of living. Person B has 8 years of adequate salary, plus a stake in something that grew the entire time, whether they were in the office or not. Same building, same hours, completely different outcomes. The difference wasn't talent or effort. It was structure. Where equity lives. Shares in public companies. The simplest, most accessible form. Anyone can buy a piece of a real business. Ownership in a private business. Yours or someone else's. Profit participation. Not full ownership, but a percentage of what's produced. Intellectual property. You wrote it, designed it, coded it, composed it. You own the rights and the earnings. Real property. Land and buildings you hold title to. Even a small stake counts. Owning 1% of something real is structurally different from owning 0% of it. The new question. Someone trained purely in salary thinking evaluates every opportunity with one question. How much does this pay me right now? That question isn't wrong. It's just incomplete. Add a second one. Does this increase what I own? Sometimes a slightly lower immediate payment with genuine equity is worth far more over 10 years than a higher payment with nothing residual. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes equity offered is worthless paper and cash is king. You have to evaluate honestly, but you can't evaluate it at all if you were never taught the question exists. That's second-order thinking, seeing past the first payment. Chapter 8. Principle 6, protect the downside. Here's a truth that gets almost no attention because it's completely unglamorous. Wealth isn't only built by winning. Wealth is built by surviving. You can make 10 excellent decisions and lose everything with one catastrophic one. The math of ruin is brutal. Lose 50% and you need 100% gain just to get back to where you started. Lose 90% and you need 900%. Which is why protection is not the boring chapter. It's the chapter that determines whether the other chapters ever get to matter. The 5 protection layers. Layer 1, the emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. 12 if you're self-employed or carry significant debt. In an account you can access immediately, separate from your daily spending. Here's the thing most people misunderstand about emergency funds. They think it's about the money. It isn't. It's about decision quality. Without reserves, you make desperate choices. You sell investments at the worst possible time. You take a payday loan. You accept a bad job. You stay in a bad situation. You put an emergency on a credit card at 22%. With reserves, an emergency is an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe. Liquidity buys you time. Time preserves wealth. Layer 2, insurance. Health. Property. Liability. Income protection where relevant. Nobody enjoys paying for insurance. You're not buying it hoping to use it. You're buying it so one event cannot erase 10 years of discipline. One serious medical event, one lawsuit, one fire, one accident. Protection is not pessimism. Protection is professionalism. Layer 3. Don't concentrate everything in one place. Not all your money in one investment. Not all your income from one client. Not all your savings at one institution. Not your entire net worth in one asset class. The test: if this one thing went to zero tomorrow, would I be destroyed? If yes, it's too concentrated. Layer 4, never sign what you don't understand. Read the contract. Read the loan terms. Read the lease. Read the employment agreement. Yes, it's tedious. Yes, it's long. Yes, it's specifically written to be tedious and long. If you don't understand a clause, ask. If they pressure you to sign quickly, that pressure is information. Urgency is the favorite tool of anyone who benefits from your not reading carefully. Layer 5, keep fixed costs low. Every recurring obligation you add reduces your flexibility permanently. Fixed costs create pressure. Pressure creates urgency. Urgency destroys good judgment. The person with low fixed costs can weather a lost job, take a risk, change careers, or wait out a bad market. The person with high fixed costs cannot, regardless of their income. How fortunes actually get lost. Not usually through stupidity, through success making someone feel exempt from the rules. The pattern is remarkably consistent. A few excellent years, confidence becomes certainty. Reserves get deployed into opportunities. Borrowing increases. Fixed costs expand. The environment shifts, and there's no margin left to absorb it. The first rule was never look wealthy. The deeper rule is, don't die financially from one avoidable decision. Comment checkpoint number 5. Which protection layer are you weakest on right now? Type, my weak layer is, fixing it by. Emergency fund. Insurance. Concentration. Contracts. Fixed costs. This is the chapter everyone skips. It's also the one that decides who's still standing after the next bad year. Chapter 9. Principle 7. Reinvest with patience. You've built something. Money starts coming in, and now you face the decision that quietly separates two futures. Do you upgrade your lifestyle, or do you upgrade the machine? The definition. Reinvesting means putting your returns back to work instead of spending them. The dividend buys more shares. The rental profit funds the next deposit. The business profit funds the next system. The extra income buys the next asset. Feed the structure before you decorate the room. Why the early years demand the most discipline. Early wealth is fragile. Your capital is small. A single bad decision represents a large percentage of everything you have. Your habits are unproven. You've been disciplined for months, not decades. Your systems are incomplete. There's no cushion yet. This is not the time for a victory lap. This is the time for reinforcement. Yes, that's genuinely hard. You worked. You produced. Something in you says, I deserve to show something for this. And you do deserve something. But be careful what you take payment in. The seed picture. Early returns look almost insulting. A dividend of $8, interest of $23, a first month's profit of $140. These numbers feel too small to matter. And that's exactly when discipline decides everything. Early gains are seeds and not celebrations. If you keep digging up the seed to admire it, you will never get a tree. That image forces a question you should ask yourself honestly. Am I trying to build something alive? Or am I trying to feel successful right now? Those are two completely different missions, and they require opposite behaviors. The first requires endurance. The second requires an audience. The rule for every raise and windfall. Here is one specific, actionable rule that can change your trajectory more than almost anything else. When income increases, assets increase first. Lifestyle increases last, and only partially. A practical version many people use. Allocate the majority of any increase to assets and permit a smaller portion to improve daily life. Why does this matter so much? Because permanent comfort must be funded by permanent income. Temporary income should never fund permanent expenses. That single mismatch is how the trap gets built. Same logic for windfalls. A bonus, a tax refund, an inheritance, a good month. Decide the split before the money arrives, because deciding afterward means deciding with emotion. Reinvest in yourself, but be honest about it. Money spent on genuine skill can compound like any other investment. Sometimes faster, especially early on. Real skill investments. Communication and writing raises your value in literally every field. Sales ability. most underrated skill in existence, a technical capability with market demand. Financial literacy itself, health, because everything else depends on your capacity to function. Emotional regulation, which we'll cover next, and which may be worth more than all the rest. But apply a strict standard. Does this measurably change my output, or does it just make me feel productive? Collecting courses you never finish is not skill building. It's consumption wearing a productivity costume. A purchased identity is fragile. An earned ability is portable. Nobody can repossess it. Comment checkpoint, Unga 6. Name one thing you are going to stop buying. Type, I'm cutting. That's time month redirected. Do the multiplication. 40 month is 480 a year. Over 20 years invested, it becomes something you'd be shocked by. The first real sign of financial strength is what you stop buying. Chapter 10. Build systems, not moods. You now know the 7 principles. Here's the honest question. How do you actually execute any of this when you're tired, busy, stressed, and life keeps happening? Answer, you stop relying on yourself, and you build systems. Why willpower will fail you. Motivation is a mood. Moods pass. You will feel inspired right now. By Thursday, you'll be tired. By the 15th of next month, something unexpected will happen. A system is what carries your standards when your energy is gone. Every financial plan that depends on you feeling disciplined will eventually fail. Not because you're weak, because you're human. The foundational rule. Money must be given a job before it touches your hands. If your income lands in your account with no predefined assignment, the world will assign it for you. Convenience takes a piece. Habit takes a piece. Emotion takes a piece. Social pressure takes a piece. And whatever is left will look too small to matter, which becomes the excuse to skip saving entirely. That excuse then repeats for 20 years. The leftover lie. Almost everyone says the same sentence. I'll save whatever's left at the end of the month. There is never anything left, not because you're irresponsible, because expenses are elastic. Spending expands to fill available money, exactly like gas fills a container. If your plan depends on leftovers, you don't have a plan. You have hope wearing a spreadsheet. Reverse it. Save first, then live on the rest. Your expenses will adjust. They always do. Building your system, step by step. Step 1, know your real number, not an estimate. Pull 3 months of statements. Add up what you actually spent, not what you meant to spend. This will be uncomfortable. Do it anyway. You cannot direct what you refuse to measure. Step 2, decide your split in advance. Write actual percentages. Something like, not just percent living expenses. She percent investing, percent emergency fund until it's full, percent debt attack, prioritizing the highest interest rate. Percent guilt-free spendings, yes, include this. A plan with zero joy gets abandoned. The exact percentages matter less than the fact that they exist and don't get renegotiated every month. Step 3, automate everything you can. On payday, the same day, not later. Automatic transfer to savings. Automatic transfer to investment account. Bills on autopay. Why automation matters more than discipline. It removes the decision moment. Every decision is an opportunity to negotiate with yourself. Remove the decision, and you remove the negotiation. Step 4, add friction to bad behavior. Make good moves easy. Make bad moves slow. Delete saved card details from shopping apps. Unsubscribe from marketing emails. Remove shopping apps from your home screen. Institute a 72-hour rule on any non-essential purchase above a set amount. Keep your investment account slightly inconvenient to withdraw from. You are not fighting your impulses. You are designing an environment where impulses have fewer opportunities to act. Step 5, review monthly. 30 minutes. Same day each month. Put it in the calendar. What came in? What went out? What did I own at the start versus now? What leaked? What's one adjustment for next month? 30 minutes a month is 6 hours a year. That's the entire administrative cost of financial control. The real point of living below your means. It's not about looking humble. There's no medal for performative frugality, and people who make a personality out of it are often just as trapped as big spenders. They've simply chosen a different identity to perform. The point is to stay dangerous. Dangerous means your expenses are low enough that you have genuine options. A bad month doesn't force a bad decision. No employer can buy your silence cheaply. You can see opportunities that panic would have hidden from you. You can walk away from anything that disrespects you. That doesn't require deprivation. It requires selectiveness. Spend generously on what genuinely improves your life, health, capability, or relationships. Cut ruthlessly what exists mainly to signal something to other people. Every dollar not wasted is a vote for your own future control. Your system includes your environment. This part gets overlooked. Who normalizes debt in your circle? Who mocks restraint? Who pressures display? Who treats planning as fear? People shape behavior far more than anyone admits. If your circle worships image, you will fight much harder to maintain clarity. If your circle respects discipline, your standards will breathe easily. You don't have to abandon anyone, but you should notice the pull and stop pretending it isn't there. Chapter 11. Growing beyond the paycheck. Protection matters. Systems matter. But if all your structure does is preserve what already exists, growth stays narrow. At some point, you widen the field. Not by chasing every trend. Not by starting 5 things simultaneously. The honest starting point. A paycheck is compensation for being useful inside someone else's system. There's nothing shameful in that. Most wealth begins there, but understand the structural limit. If you stop there, all your upside is negotiated by other people. Your income rises by permission. Your hours are capped. Your role can be redefined. Your position can be eliminated. You may be genuinely talented and still structurally limited. Talent without leverage earns. Talent with leverage builds. The questions that open doors. Look at what you already have and ask, can this skill become consulting? People pay significantly more for the same skill delivered as expertise rather than employment. Can this knowledge become a product? A course, a guide, a template, a tool? Can this experience become content? Teaching what you know builds an audience, and an audience is distribution, one of the most valuable assets in existence. Can this be productized? Turning a service into something repeatable. Can my network create opportunity that a resume never could? Most real opportunity moves through relationships, not applications. Can capital buy me time to build a second engine? Sometimes the highest use of savings is buying yourself the space to build. You don't need 10 streams. This is one of the most damaging pieces of advice circulating. You need one primary stream handled excellently, a growing base of assets, one deliberate search for leverage where your strengths already live. That's it. Noise comes from trying to do everything. Power comes from building what fits. The frenzy trap. Most people confuse expansion with frenzy. They start 5 projects, go 3 weeks deep on each, master none, and call the resulting exhaustion ambition. That isn't ambition. That's scattered fear. Real builders pick a lane with economic weight and stay in it long enough to become genuinely hard to replace. Depth creates pricing power. Scarcity follows competence. Nobody pays a premium for someone who's slightly familiar with 6 things. Everybody pays a premium for someone who's genuinely excellent at one. The underrated benefit negotiation power. Here's something that pays before any side project ever earns a dollar. When your finances are solid, you negotiate completely differently. You're not desperate. You can wait. You can ask for more. You can walk away and mean it. Desperation is expensive. It makes people underprice themselves, accept poor conditions, and stay in environments that drain both their money and their spirit. The stronger your reserves, the stronger your voice in every room. A person with 6 months of expenses saved will, over a career, likely negotiate hundreds of thousands more than the identical person with nothing saved, purely because they can afford to hear no, and still respect the earlier principles. Do not build a second trap that merely looks entrepreneurial. Don't chase vanity businesses with no margin. Don't borrow aggressively to fund an image. Don't confuse activity with traction. Ask the same questions you'd ask of any investment. Does this create real value for someone? Can it scale beyond my hours? Can it be owned? Can it survive a bad year? Can it be repeated? If the answer is no, the excitement is irrelevant. If you stop working for 2 weeks and every dollar stops, the structure is still shallow. That's not failure. That's feedback. Chapter 12. The real battle is emotional. Here's where most financial education completely stops, and where most financial failure actually happens. Knowledge tells you what to do. Emotion determines whether you do it. Plenty of intelligent, informed people know all 7 principles. They still overspend. They still panic sell. They still compare. They still self-sabotage the moment life becomes socially uncomfortable. The issue isn't information. The issue is control. If your emotions can move your money at will, you don't own your money. Your emotions do. Why we actually spend. Be genuinely honest with yourself here. You buy to belong. Everyone in your circle has it. Not having it feels like exclusion. You buy to recover. Hard day. Hard month. The purchase is a small act of self-care that gets progressively more expensive. You buy to announce, to communicate, often to specific people, that you are doing fine. You buy to numb, the scroll, the click, the delivery, a small, reliable hit of anticipation. You buy because someone else looks ahead, a post, a photo, a car in a driveway. Something tightens and a decision gets made. You buy because saying no makes you feel small, the dinner you can't afford, the trip you shouldn't take, the gift beyond your budget. Saying no would require admitting something you'd rather not admit. Spending is almost always social before it is financial, which means your budget isn't just arithmetic. It's your psychology printed on a page. And this is why willpower alone fails. You're not fighting numbers. You're fighting the need to belong, to feel okay, and to be seen as enough. The upside is dangerous too. Most people brace for the downside. Almost nobody prepares for what success does. A few strong months, a promotion, a profitable deal, a market that keeps rising, and ego wakes up. Suddenly restraint feels unnecessary. Success whispers, those rules were for when things were hard. You've figured it out now. This is how people erase years of progress in a single quarter. They loosen the exact standards that created the result. 2 warning signs to memorize. Things go up and you feel invincible, danger. Things go down and you feel doomed, danger. Both reactions shrink your decisions. Money responds well to boring minds. Minds that can wait. Minds that can read. Minds that don't need to prove anything to anyone in public. The guilt nobody talks about. This one is real and it traps people for decades. Many people grew up around financial strain, shame, or chaos. So part of them feels disloyal for becoming more disciplined than the environment that raised them. Guilty for saying no to family requests. Guilty for charging what they're worth. Guilty for having reserves when others don't. Guilty for choosing differently than the people who love them. Hear this clearly, because it needs to be said directly. Respecting your past does not require surrendering to it. Compassion for others does not require self-destruction. Helping people is genuinely good. Bleeding your own structure dry to perform generosity is not noble, it's unstable. And unstable people cannot help anyone for very long. The most generous thing you can do for the people you love is become structurally strong enough to actually be useful repeatedly for decades, instead of dramatically useful once and then broke. The sentence that explains the most: a calm, financial life often requires disappointing people who benefited from your lack of control. Read that twice. Some will call you cheap when you're being strategic. Some will call you lucky when you're being disciplined. Some will call you distant when you've simply stopped participating in mutual self-sabotage. Some will call you selfish when you're building the capacity to actually help. That discomfort is not a sign you're doing it wrong. That discomfort is part of the price. Comment checkpoint 7. This is the most useful thing you'll write today. What's your emotional spending trigger? Type: I spend when I feel bad, stressed, bored, lonely, left behind, successful, angry, celebratory. Naming a trigger removes half its power, and you're about to see how many people share yours. Of someone who knows. This wealth is still not primarily a number. says, it's its identity, what it did, wanted approval before acting, come with security, assumed a bigger salary meant safety, seeing as relief and debt as access, too easily, was impressed by what people displayed, to institutions, culture, and whoever spoke most confidently. Normal, because confusion was common. Safe, wise, what it does. Thing knows, without worshipping the paycheck or spending, because future control matters more than present display. It's before applause, not just paper value, funding enough to not interrupt it carefully, and knows which kind they're using, not just income. Decide before chasing the upside, when ego wants to celebrate early, so standards survive tired days, and so fear and envy don't grab the wheel. Not from shame, but from strength. Yet, silence matters because it's more practical than it sounds. Tech's focus. Nation costs energy that could have gone into execution. The plan. Invite opinions, and opinions from people who don't understand your structure will erode your certainty. Premature spending. Out too early often gets spent socially before it matures financially. Need for approval. Anyone to validate a decision you already understand. Talk about the life they're building. Build a life that no longer requires explaining. In this entire audiobook, information alone will not save you. To your financial intentions, financial identity, yourself as a consumer first, as someone who deserves every impulse because life is hard, as someone who's just bad with money, then every technique in this audiobook will be swallowed whole by the old self-image. Investment account and drain it in 8 months. Emergency fund and spend it on something that felt urgent. And abandon it in week 5. Was wrong. Didn't change. Change before the numbers can. He doesn't change through inspiration. Repeated evidence. Yourself is a brick. You become someone else. Challenge. In your education, in how it was built, principles, systems, battle. Identity is required, who is not knowledge. The old script. Feel the sting and resume the pattern by Wednesday, because familiar always feels safer than free at the beginning. What you're choosing between. Dependence is brittle, right up until the moment it isn't. Discipline is slower and far more real. He orders a life. How do I look successful? Become structurally strong. Question changes what you admire. Tolerate. You work, spend, save, invest, speak, and wait. Time, it changes the person standing in the mirror. Money, it, but for more. With what arrives, and only to serve the system. Finally understands the system well enough to step outside its script and remain standing. Write it now. Another video you enjoyed. Is nothing, everything. It's quickly tracked. My freedom number today is 15 months. First asset will be bought by you. Invest Cinder does every month automatically, starting now. 4. I am cutting Darcy, redirecting the month. Weakest protection layer is up by, fixed by. No spending trigger is cum. Now my monthly review day is the D2 of each month. Me in 90 days, publicly. Private is a wish. Public is a structure. That has nothing to do with you. Going to scroll this comment section tonight, who has never once been told that a paycheck is not the same thing as safety. Spent 15 years blaming themselves for the predictable result of missing information. Be the sentence that finally reaches them. 20 days, and reply to your own comment with what actually happened. This will become the most valuable thread on this channel. With someone who works the hardest and worries the most. Should never go together, and now you can explain why they do, if you're finished chasing money and ready to start directing it.